Today I will be exploring how successful and common it is for someone to use the insanity plea while faced with a crime. The myth is that a large proportion of criminals will try to use the insanity plea and that they will be successful using it. The idea behind the insanity plea is that someone who commits a criminal act will admit to doing the crime but try to say they didn't know right from wrong. The problem with this is that you have to realize that concept of insanity and insanity in legal terms, not psychiatric terms. The authors of the 50 Great Myths of Popular Psychology explain that this is more so when whether a person is legally responsible at the time they commit the crime in question. The common way of determining mental ability and sanity is using the M-Naughton rule. The M-Naughton rule essentially is where they determine if they either knew or didn't know what they were doing at the time of wrongdoing or not understand what they did wrong in the first place. By using these two ideas, you're questioning the individual's cognition. The other method used to determine if one is insane is the criteria the American Law Institute outlines. The two things they look at is if the person knew what they were doing, similar to the first of the M-Naughton rule, and then if they were unable to control their impulses to conform to the law. In a study, the results showed that the average person believes the insanity plea is used in roughly 30% of criminal cases, and of that 30%, 44% are successful and given the insanity plea. Along with that same survey, people believe 26% acquittees are set free and only spend about 22 months in a mental hospital. One other survey showed that 90% of the participants agreed that the insanity plea is used too much and that too many criminals escape responsibilities of their crimes by pleading they are insane. Not only does the mass majority of the public believe this to be true, but so do many of the politicians. Politicians have estimated that 21% of accused criminals have used the plea and that 40% of them are successful. President Richard Nixon even made an abolition of the insanity defense. There are politicians today trying to still get rid of the insanity defense. The perceptions listed above are wildly inaccurate. Data indicates that the defense of being insane is used in less than 1% of all criminal cases and is only successful 25% of the time it is used. Overall, the public believes the insanity plea is used 40 times more than it actually is used. Also, people are extremely wrong when they assume those who do get deemed as insane get out quicker. In fact, the average person who is classified as insane spends about 32 to 33 months in the psychiatric hospital, which is 10 to 11 months longer than those surveyed believed. Results of several different studies have even shown that criminals in prison with the insanity plea spend at least as long, if not longer, in an institution than criminals who aren't classified as insane. These misconceptions have risen from media, as do most misconceptions do today. There are so many different shows, like Judge Judy or CSI, that depict crimes and court cases. Many times in a crime show, the person who commits the crime is more often than not shown as someone who is noticeably insane, but not often shown someone who has a minor mental illness that isn't physically noticeable. A good documentary that I encourage you to watch is PBS's Frontline special called The New Asylums. I actually just watched it for another class I am currently taking. It is a good reference to see how little resources are open to those who really are mentally ill in prisons. Towards the end, they interview a man who was in prison for murder. He was tried without the insanity plea but was forced to stay in longer due to symptoms of psychosis becoming more evident as he stayed in prison. Not one of the mentally ill inmates that were interviewed were tried with the insanity plea, even though most of them showed characteristics of being mentally ill and insane. The idea that people will often use the insanity plea to get a lesser sentence is incorrect. In fact, it is very uncommon for someone to be tried as insane.